Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. This time we're tackling The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer.
Oh, this is a good one.
It is. It's a fascinating exploration of, well, surrendering to the flow of life. And Singer chronicles his own 40-year experiment with this idea.
And it's not about being passive, is it?
Not at all. It's more about actively engaging with what life throws at you and choosing the path of least resistance with, full intention.
Right. It's about recognizing that fighting against what is often just creates more struggle.
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's go back to the beginning of Singer's journey. He was in his early 20s back in 1970 and had this seemingly ordinary experience that ended up being anything but.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So picture this. He's on the couch with a friend, and there's this awkward silence.
We've all been there.
Right. Now, most of us would probably try to fill that silence, right? But Singer, he just sat there, and in that stillness, he had this, mini awakening.
What do you mean?
He became super aware of the voice in his head, the one that's constantly chattering, trying to come up with something to say to fix this situation. And that awareness of his own mental chatter was the spark that ignited his lifelong exploration of inner peace.
Wow, so a moment of awkward silence led to a life-changing realization.
It did. And it led to some pretty significant external changes, too. At the time, he was on track to get his PhD in economics.
Really?
Yeah, but this newfound focus on inner peace made him question everything, and he made the radical decision to leave his doctoral studies behind to fully dedicate himself to this inner journey.
That's a bold move, walking away from something society values so highly.
It was. And, this choice really exemplifies his commitment to that path of least resistance. It might not have been the easy path, but it was the path aligned with his truth.
And it led him to some pretty incredible adventures, like his spontaneous trip to Mexico.
Yes. He decides to just take off, living out of his van, finding solace in nature. And there's this amazing story where he's parked in this remote area planning to meditate, but his food supply's running low.
Uh-oh.
And worry starts to creep in, right?
Yeah.
But then, seemingly out of nowhere, this young boy appears, bringing him fresh tortillas.
Like a sign.
It's like the universe was taking care of him in ways he couldn't have planned or orchestrated.
That's a powerful example of how surrender isn't about things falling apart. It's about opening yourself up to unexpected support and a sense of being guided.
Exactly. But here's the thing. That sense of peace he found in those moments, he didn't magically erase all his internal struggles. Even after he returned from Mexico, that voice in his head, the one he became so aware of, was still there.
So it's not a one-time fix?
No, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
This path of least resistance, it's not always a straight line.
Right. There are going to be moments of resistance, those ingrained mental patterns trying to pull us back into old habits.
For sure. And Singer, he realized that instead of trying to forcefully silence that inner voice, he needed to understand it, understand its motivations.
How do you mean?
Well, he realized a lot of the mental chatter revolved around likes and dislikes, attachments to how things should be.
Ah, I see. So instead of battling the mind, you understand it. And if you can detach from those rigid ideas, you remove the fuel for the chatter.
Exactly. And this shift in perspective led him to some unexpected opportunities. He ended up teaching economics at Santa Fe Community College, something he hadn't planned on doing at all.
Life had other plans.
It seems so. And, even though it wasn't part of his initial plan, this unplanned turn of events brought him a sense of fulfillment he hadn't expected.
Sometimes the path we least expect can lead us to where we need to be.
Is that the truth? It's about being open to the possibilities that arise, even if they don't perfectly align with our preconceived ideas.
It's like that story about him struggling to write an economics paper and then, boom, inspiration hits after a deep meditation session.
Oh yeah, that one's amazing. He writes the entire paper effortlessly, the words just flowing onto the page, almost as if he's taking dictation.
It's like he tapped into a creative force beyond his conscious control. He wasn't forcing it. He surrendered to the flow of inspiration and let it guide him.
And speaking of unexpected outcomes, this guy who was seeking solitude and a contemplative life ends up building this thriving spiritual community. He never set out to do it, but it emerged organically from his willingness to surrender to what life presented.
A community, that's quite a turn of events.
I know, right? And it all started with this funny little twist. He hired an architect to design a simple meditation hut, and the architect got a little carried away, ended up designing a multi-level house.
Oops.
But that house became the central point for this growing community. Singer's consistent willingness to surrender, even when things seemed to go off script, led to something far more impactful than he could have imagined on his own.
That's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most impactful creations arise not from grand divines, but from a humble willingness to serve something larger than ourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And this is just the beginning, right?
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore in Singer's journey. From building a house for a sheriff's deputy to navigating the complexities of the business world, his story is filled with unexpected twists and turns that challenge his commitment to surrender in ever-evolving ways.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. And we'll dive into all of that and more in our next episode. So stay tuned, folks. This surrender experiment is just getting started.
You know, it's amazing how Singer consistently found himself in these situations that really pushed him outside his comfort zone.
Mm.
Each one seemed to be like a test, challenging him to surrender even further.
It's like life was presenting him with these opportunities to put his surrender experiment into practice in a really, intense way.
Exactly. Like that time his friend Sandy casually mentioned she was planning to build a house on his land.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. He was seeking solitude at that point. So having someone move in next door, not exactly part of the plan.
Right. I mean, that would have triggered some internal resistance in most people.
Big time. But Singer, remembering his commitment to surrender, he agreed to help her build the house.
Talk about walking the walk.
It's a perfect example of how saying yes to what arises, even when it pushes us outside our comfort zones, can lead to these unexpected, growth and fulfillment.
And this pattern just keeps repeating in Singer's life. He ends up getting drawn into the construction business, something that seemed totally at odds with his, spiritual aspirations.
Kind of ironic, isn't it? A construction business called Built with Love.
I love that. It highlights how even seemingly mundane work can become a vehicle for spiritual practice if we approach it with the right intention.
For sure. And through this, unexpected venture, he actually found a deeper connection to the principles he was exploring in his meditation practice.
It's like the lines between, spiritual and ordinary life started to blur.
Exactly. And remember, Singer never actually set out to create a spiritual center. The temple of the universe, it emerged organically from his willingness to say yes to what life presented, to surrender to the flow of events, even when they seemed inconvenient.
Such a powerful reminder that some of the most impactful creations come about not from our own grand designs, but from our willingness to serve something larger than ourselves.
And that theme of service becomes even more prominent as his journey unfolds. He finds himself drawn to volunteer work at a maximum security prison, teaching meditation to the inmates.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
It is. And it's another example of how life kind of nudges us towards paths that stretch our compassion and challenge our preconceived notions about, who deserves our help.
And in that setting, Singer witnessed some incredible transformations in the inmates. These men, confined by physical walls, they found a sense of inner freedom through meditation and self-awareness.
It's like true freedom is an inside job,
Couldn't agree more. And Singer's experience at the prison, it really highlighted another key aspect of surrender, embracing discomfort, stepping outside those comfort zones and seeing the world through a different lens.
Yeah. He was confronted with the harsh realities of prison life, but he chose to meet those challenges with compassion.
And a deep belief in the inmate's capacity for transformation.
It reinforces the idea that surrender isn't about seeking comfort or ease, but about embracing whatever arises. Even the difficult stuff.
Right.
Trusting that there's a purpose, a learning opportunity in every experience.
And then, despite his intention to live a simple life dedicated to spiritual practice, he finds himself drawn into this world of technology and business.
I know, right? It's almost hard to believe. A self-proclaimed hippie yogi who'd never even touched a computer ends up running a multi-million-dollar software company.
But that's the beauty of the surrender experiment. It's not about adhering to a rigid plan. It's about being open to the unexpected, trusting that life might have something, much bigger in store for us.
So how did this tech venture even start? It's not like he had some master plan, right?
It all happened very organically. He was asked by a friend to help with a computer programming task. And true to his nature, he surrendered to the request, even though it seemed completely outside his, realm of expertise.
Another example of saying yes to what arises, even when it seems daunting.
And this one act of service set in motion this chain of events that led him down this path he could never have predicted. He's suddenly immersed in the world of software development, learning as he goes.
And just like in other areas of his life, the right people seem to appear at the right time, offering their support.
It's like this constant flow of synchronicity. Singer's story reminds us that when we surrender to the flow of life, we often tap into this network of support that we might not even be aware of.
So tell me about this software company. What did they develop?
Well, it started with a program to help medical practices manage their billing called the Medical Manager.
I bet he didn't set out to revolutionize the medical industry, did he? He was probably just focused on creating a good product and, offering his skills as a service.
You got it. And that dedication to quality, combined with his trust in the unfolding process, led to incredible success. The Medical Manager became the most widely used practice management software in the country. It even earned a spot in the Smithsonian's permanent archives.
That's wild. It shows that when we align our actions with a sense of service and purpose, we can achieve amazing things.
And as the company grew, Singer continued to apply those principles of surrender to his business practices. He trusted his team, delegated responsibility, and stayed open to the ever-changing tech landscape. He brought the same mindfulness to his work as he did to his spiritual life.
So fascinating how his approach to business mirrored his spiritual practice. A constant letting go, a trust in the process, and a willingness to embrace the unknown.
And of course, Singer's unconventional approach caught the attention of some big players in healthcare. Blue Cross, Blue Shield, even major software companies were interested in partnering with him.
It's like his willingness to surrender to the flow of life had put him right at the forefront of this technological revolution, the path of least resistance, leading to the most impactful outcomes.
Exactly. And amidst all the success, Singer remained grounded, constantly reminding himself that he was just a participant in this much larger scheme.
Such a good lesson in humility. Even with great achievements, remembering that we're not the sole authors of our success.
And that humility becomes even more crucial as his journey takes yet another unexpected turn. Despite wanting to keep a low profile, he's thrust into the spotlight, facing this challenge that would really test his commitment to surrender.
Things get serious now. Singer's story takes this sharp turn from the world of business and spirituality into this realm of legal battles, a true test of his surrender experiment.
It all started with the decision to take his software company public.
And staying true to himself, he approached this new venture with a sense of surrender, trusting it was part of the plan, even though it meant navigating the complexities of Wall Street.
But this decision would have these unforeseen consequences, leading him down a path filled with challenges that put his principles to the ultimate test.
So tell me about this legal battle. What happened?
Well, after going public, he gets caught up in this web of accusations. He's accused of financial misconduct, of manipulating the company's accounting for personal gain.
Those accusations must have been just devastating for him, a man who had dedicated his life to ethical conduct.
Absolutely. And the irony is that these accusations came from someone he had trusted, someone who took advantage of his willingness to delegate.
It's a tough reminder that even with the best intentions, we can be blindsided.
But even in the face of these accusations, he chose to remain committed to his practice of surrender. He didn't let himself get consumed by anger or resentment.
Incredible. How did he stay so grounded amidst all that chaos?
Well, for Singer, this legal battle became another opportunity to practice what he'd been living for decades. It was a chance to detach from his ego even further, to surrender his need for control and trust that even in this storm, there was a purpose unfolding.
That's remarkable. The level of awareness he maintained throughout this ordeal is inspiring. He was able to observe his own thoughts and emotions, the fear, the anger, the desire to fight back, without letting them control him. To be able to face something so challenging with such awareness is truly incredible. It really shows the strength that comes from a dedicated practice of surrender.
It really does. And you know what's so striking about this period in Singer's life is how the intensity of the external situation seemed to really deepen his internal growth.
It's like the more pressure he faced from the outside, the more he turned inward and used his practice as this anchor, in the middle of a storm.
Exactly. And he kept up with his daily meditation practice and kept focusing on cultivating that inner peace, even though the external world felt chaotic and uncertain.
It's so inspiring how that unwavering commitment to his spiritual practice allowed him to navigate the situation with a sense of peace that I think most people would find hard to maintain.
It is, he was able to detach from the outcome of it all and trust that whatever happened was part of a larger plan, even though he couldn't see the details of how it would resolve.
That takes a lot of trust. It speaks to a real deep faith in the inherent wisdom of life, a belief that even in the chaos and confusion, there's this underlying order, a purpose guiding us towards something better.
And that faith paid off. After years of legal proceedings, the truth came out. The judge dismissed the case against Singer and the other executives, recognizing that they had been falsely accused.
What a testament to the power of perseverance. Trusting in the legal system, but also maintaining that inner peace, even when the world seems determined to shake you.
Singer's experience through all of this is such a powerful reminder that we don't always have control over the events that happen to us, but we do have control over how we respond to them.
Absolutely. He could have easily been consumed by anger or a desire for revenge or this need to prove his innocence and fight back against those accusations. But he chose a different way. He chose surrender.
And that choice shows a level of spiritual maturity that's truly inspiring. He didn't let the situation define him or derail his commitment to his spiritual practice or his belief in the good in people.
It's a beacon of hope in a world that can often feel so chaotic. It reminds us that even when things feel like they're designed to break us, we have the power to choose a different path. We can choose surrender.
And in that surrender, we find strength and resilience we might not have known we had. We tap into this source of wisdom and guidance that's always there for us, even when we feel alone.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the surrender experiment, what are some of the key takeaways from Singer's journey? What can we apply to our own lives, even if we're not facing legal battles or leading huge companies?
Well, I think one of the most important things is letting go of control, which I think is often misunderstood. Surrender isn't about being passive or giving up. It's about acknowledging that we're not in complete control of our lives, that there's something bigger at play that we don't fully understand.
It's about trusting that even with all the twists and turns, there's a purpose unfolding a path leading us towards our best selves.
And that trust involves being open to the unknown, to stepping outside of our comfort zones and letting life guide us in directions we never would have considered on our own.
It's about saying yes to
Yeah.
the opportunities that come our way, even if they don't perfectly align with our expectations.
And maybe even more importantly, it's about seeing every experience, even the tough ones, as a chance for growth and learning. There's something to be learned from every situation, even the ones that feel painful or unfair.
Singer's surrender experiment is a reminder that life is a journey, not a destination. It's a series of experiences, each offering a chance to learn, grow, and deepen our connection to everything around us.
And when we go through this journey with a sense of surrender, with a willingness to let go of control, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities we could never have imagined.
Singer's story shows the power of trust, letting go, and facing the unknown with courage and an open heart.
It's like an invitation to each of us to try our own surrender experiment and discover the freedom and joy that comes when we step out of the way and let life lead us on this amazing adventure.
And that's where we'll leave you today. May Singer's story inspire you to approach your own life with curiosity, a willingness to let go, and a deep trust in the wisdom of the universe.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep surrendering to the flow of life.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.